Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to session 5 of the IRMI Annual Conference 2021. I'm Ponnari Gottipati. I'm a consultant grants manager at LV Prasad Eye Institute in Hyderabad. I'll be chairing the session this afternoon. And before we start the session, just a few housekeeping rules. If you find yourself logged out of the system, you can rejoin by clicking on the same link once again. And there will be audience interaction both for the first talk and also at the end after the panel discussion. So please keep your questions coming in through the question box. Okay, so the session 5 this afternoon is support services for facilitating extramural funding. And as we all would agree, extramural funding is the lifeline of research, and securing and efficiently managing this funding is very, very vital for the success of both the project as well as the research institution. And this session is going to primarily focus on these two aspects, the pre-award and the post-award support. We will hear from some of the research managers from different institutions talk about how they facilitate these services in their respective institutions. And then that will be followed by a panel discussion. So the first speaker this afternoon is Dr. Kanan Palvesam. He works as a scientist E at the Information and Library Network Center in Gandhinagar. And so he's trained in computer science, and he's had vast experience working with databases as well as with leading institutional libraries. And he's passionate about providing open source solutions to institutional repositories and showcasing scholarly communication activities. So today he's going to introduce us to IRINS, which is the Innovative Research Information System. So this is being developed by InfibNet, which is an autonomous inter-university center of UGC. And basically, this is an open source service which integrates, it's an integrated service that is being developed by this institution to sort of help the educational institutions and R&D organizations to aggregate and showcase their research output and also their performance metrics. So we'll first hear Dr. Kannan's talk and later take questions. So please continue. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box.
Dear participants, welcome to IRMI Annual Conference 2021. Myself Kanan, working as a scientist E at Information and Library Network Center, Gandhinagar. Next 15 minutes, I am going to talk about what is Research Information Management System, why we need Research Information Management System in the institute level, how the research related activities shared as well as disseminated in the academic environment, what is Indian Research Information Network System, what are the functional use of Indian Research Information Network System, future and functionalities, the current status and its achievements. What is Research Information Management System? A Research Information Management System is a database or information system to collect, organize, store and exchange the research related metadata to the internal as well as external system. The core entities of research information management systems are people who do research, organization, the research output and its metrics. Any research information management system, the interoperability is the main core. The system should have a facility to interact with the internal system such as HR, institutional repository, project management system and etc. Same way, the system should have a facility to interact with external databases such as Citation database, national level, international level, institutional repositories, and etc. Why we need research information management system in the institute level? Every institutes, they want to showcase their research activities to the scholarly community, as well as the institute want to attract potential students. Often the research administrators, head of the institute or funding agency, policy maker, often they used to ask the question to the institute, what are the research activities performed by the universities or organizations, where the faculty member they are doing their research, what are the project handled by the faculty members, what is the impact of the research projects and its outputs, how the research related activities are shared as well as disseminated in the academic environment. Most of the faculty related information available in the institutional website or in the HR management system. The publication and other detail, it will be available in the institutional repository or national level repositories or some citation databases, national as well as international citation databases such as Scopus, Web of Science, or some academic identity registries such as Archit ID, Google Scholar ID, Microsoft Academic ID, or REPEC ID. These are the different places the research related activities disseminated as well as shared. What are the challenges in the research information management system in the institute level? The research related activities not discoverable or interoperable. Most of the institute, they may have their own faculty profile or department profile. It may be in the different formats, such as some of the institute they may have a HTML format, some of the institute they may have in PDF format. These are the data, it does not have any interoperability to connect with internal as well as external system. That is a first challenge. Second, the publication do not reflect the expertise of the faculty member as well as department. If you take any of the citation database, they used to define the expertise of the faculty member as well as department based on where they have published the article, whereas the current profile management system or research information management system in the institute level, it does not reflect expertise of the faculty member as well as the department. The third challenge is hard to find right expert for project review or other collaborative research. Since the institute does not have any proper research information management system, it is very difficult to find expert within an institute for some kind of collaborative research or any kind of some assistant for project review or other external research related activities. Increased expenditure on citation databases. If you take Indian higher education system, we have near about 1000 plus degree awarding institute, 40,000 plus colleges. Out of these many institute, hardly 0.5% of the institute they have these citation databases. They used to subscribe this database. Over a period of time, the citation database cost is increasing. Even the institute level, the budget they are decreasing. Today, hardly 250 to 300 institute they have these citation databases. If they want to know about other institute what are the research they are doing it, or if they want to know about their own faculty member research activities, they have to depend on these citation databases. It is very difficult to subscribe entire higher education institution in our country. That is another major challenge. The final challenge is retrieve research related metadata for assessment, whether it may be an internal assessment or external assessment. Often the research administrator requests to the faculty member as well as department whenever they go for national as well as international level assessments. It is very difficult to get the data from the faculty member or from the department. These are the different challenges in the research information management system in the institute level. To overcome these issues, the Information and Library Network Center developed an open source software called Indian Research Information Network System under National Mission on Education through ICT. It captures all the scholarly communication activities of the faculty members, such as people who do research, their affiliations, their honor and awards, projects, and their research outputs and citation metrics. the system automatically collect the data based on their academic identity, and it bring new insight to the research related data. At present, the research information network system available to all the higher education institution as well as R&D organization as a software as a service. In the future, we are going to release as open source tool for entire academic as well as research community in the world. The functional use of IRINS. If the institute have this research information management system, as a research administrator as well as nodal officer, he can generate various reports based on the data gathered from the institute, such as number of faculty, their publication, citation, and that H-index, department-wise publication and citations. They can generate various graphs as well as chart based on the data available in the IRNS system. The nodal officer as well as research administrator, they can manage all the project and grant related information using this interface, as well as this data can be used for academic review of the faculty member as well as department. The faculty member, they can generate a CV, even they can enhance the CV with the publication metrics, not only that citation metrics, they can get the social media metrics. They can generate a CV, they can use it wherever it is possible for them. Even this system could be integrated with the external system for fetching a publication, citation, patent, all those research related activities. Even it supports the nodal officer to provide a data for national level assessment system or international assessment system or international level ranking system. Even this system has been integrated with the institutional repository. It will bring more visibility to the faculty member as well as their publications. These are the major functional use of IRINS. The key features and functionalities of IRINS: there is a nodal officer dashboard. There the individual institute nodal officer could manage all the faculty member. Even he could generate various report using this dashboard. The system has been integrated with various academic identity to retrieve a publication and citation and other research related activities. It has been integrated with Scopus ID, Google Scholar ID, Archit ID, Microsoft Academic ID. The system automatically fetch citation as well as publication from various external citation databases such as Scopus, Crossref, Dimension, and it also used to bring that open access article link from base field academic search engines. The system have a Solr based search engine where the faculty member from the outside organization or student from outside the institute, easily they can search the faculty member or area of expertise. Even they can have a various filters such as their designation, department, area of expertise, and etc. The system also provide various analytics such as research progress of the faculty member, department as well as organization. The system also automatically generate co-author network based on the faculty collaboration. The system also integrated with the social media metrics called that Ultimatrix. Based on this integration, automatically it used to bring how many time the faculty members publication discussed in the Twitter, or how many time is article shared in the fixed ad. All those information it used to bring from various sources. Data visualization dashboard, we have developed special dashboard for funding agency as well as policy maker, where the funding agency as well as policy maker, they can analyze the research performance of the institute. They can extract who are all the top faculty member in the research respective research areas, or they can compare the institute. They can benchmark the institute based on various research parameters such as their publication, citation, and patent related patent information. These are the major features and functionalities of this IRINS. The data integration workflow, you can have a look at it in the screen. IRNS team used to collect only basic information from the nodal officer or respective institute, such as their name, affiliation, area of expertise, then academic identities. Based on the academic identity, the system automatically fetch a publication from different sources such as Scopus, Crossref, Archit, Google Scholar as well as Microsoft Academic Search. Based on the publication as well as digital object identifier, the system once again fetch citation as well as social media metrics from different sources. Once the data gathered, the data could be integrated with their own institutional repository as well as outside the open access repository as well as publishers' websites. These are the basic data integration workflow in the IRNS. Benefit to the stakeholders. The major stakeholders of IRNS are the faculty member, the research administrator and funding agencies. The faculty member, they can generate their own CV with updated publication and other research related activities. Even it will bring more visibility to the faculty research contributions. It will attract more number of collaborative research as well as funding opportunities, national as well as international levels. As a research administrator, he can generate various reports based on the data available in the IRNS system. Also, it brings new insight to the research related data in the institute level. It reduces the time to collect research related data from the faculty member as well as department for various assessment. It supports the funding agency as well as policy maker to search expert in a particular area for project review as well as some national or international level projects. Also, it supports the funding agency as well as policy maker to providing research related metadata for national as well as international level assessments. Current status and achievements. As on today, we have completed 229 instances which include IISc, IITs, NITs, central universities and other R&D organizations. We connected near about 43,000 faculty members through this platform. Also, we accumulated more than 8 lakh publication and 101 lakh citation using this IRNS platform. I am going to give a small demo of IRNS instance. You can have a look at it in the screen. The left side, total number of faculty, the middle, total number of publication and their patents. Below that, you can see where the faculty member published these many articles, whether it is a open access journal or closed access journal. The rightmost part, you can have total citation received from different sources. The second part, it shows the department and number of faculty and who are all the top 10 faculty members in the institute, which are the top 10 article from the institute. The graph shows that department wise publication, citation as well as H index of IIT Madras. The next slide, it shows the research productivity of the particular department. For example, this is Department of Chemistry, how many article all the faculty together published, how many citation they received, what is the H index of the department. All those analysis the system automatically fetch from different sources and it displayed to the end users. This is individual faculty profile. Here you can have a look at it, the research productivity of the faculty member, how many article he has published, how many citation he received, what is the H index, the citation metrics from Google Scholar. In the right side you can have who are all the similar expert from the department, who are all the other faculty member from the department. All those information it is to provide. This is a co-author network. Even somebody want to know during the particular year who are all the co-author with the particular faculty member, they can come to know using this co-author network. This is the rightmost corner, you can have a look at the publication, their citation and social media metrics and etc. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Once again, thanks for providing this opportunity for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kanan, for that very comprehensive introduction. It's a very, very interesting system and very, very useful to organizations. And it is heartening to see such systems being developed in the country, and especially with the government taking the lead on it. So we do have some questions coming in. So the first question is this only meant for government organizations, or can private institutes also avail it?
No, we have developed, initially we have developed for only that centrally funded institute. But at present, we are providing this service to all the higher education as well as R&D organization, whether it's a private or government. We are not differentiate. Anybody, if you want to join, they can simply send a mail to us, irns@implement.ac.in. Then our team will follow how we have to collect the data, what are the information you have to provide. All those information our team will follow.
Okay. So we have a question from Simon. So he's asking, in terms of interoperability, have you looked at the European serif standard?
Yeah.
Maybe I can ask.
Yeah.
Go on, Dr.
Yeah, you complete. Yeah. We are in the process to implement.
Go on.
No, we are in the process to implement that serif standard. Even we are also part of that. We are IRNS is a member of EuroCRIS, European Current Research Information System. We are in the process to implement the standard, but most of the metadata, whatever they have defined, we have in our IRNS system. We have all those metadata. We are following those metadata, but we didn't map with their standard serif standard, but we are in the process to map our data with the serif standard.
Okay.
Is it clear?
He has another. Yes. He has another question. Does it support the credit contributor role taxonomy for author contributions to publications?
No, at present we are taking only that faculty as a contributor as an author, but other taxonomy at present we are not supporting. Suppose somebody contributed as a data entry operator, or somebody contributed as a creating some image, or they have contributed some other form, but at present we are not supporting those kind of taxonomy. At present we are having only that who are all faculty involved with a particular article or publication.
Okay. And then we have a next question from Madhuri. Would IRIN help in automatically pulling in publications instead of having a nodal officer to request info?
Yeah. Actually, what we have done is basically we used to collect only basic information from the nodal officer, respective nodal officer. It is their faculty affiliation, and there particularly we are asking all these academic identities such as Scopus ID, Google Scholar ID, Archit ID, Microsoft Academic ID. Based on this ID, the system automatically fetch data from different sources. Even faculty member or nodal officer, not necessary to import not even a single article. All the article based on this ID automatically fetch from different sources. Suppose some of the article it is not indexed any of this citation database such as Scopus, or your article is not available in Archit. If you have those articles, manually you can feed those article related metadata. Otherwise, system automatically fetch data periodically. It will fetch and it will display in the respective profile department as well as institute.
Okay. Just a question there. Sorry if this is a very naive question. How does this integration actually work, in the sense that, because obviously, to avail full services of Scopus, we have to pay Scopus, to get all this information. So how does this integration work? Do you enter into agreements with these different bodies, or do you have to pay them to do this? Sorry, it's a very naive question, but
okay. Right. Actually, even whether if you want to subscribe Scopus, you have to pay some money, isn't it? But whereas apart from that paid subscription, there is a free API available in the Scopus. There is a free API available in the what is called Archit. Archit also, you can be a member to fetch a data, or you can use as a free membership. For that, not necessary to pay anything. You register as a developer. You can develop you can get a data based on that free API. there is a restriction. It is like suppose if you are subscribing Scopus, they may give around 18 to 24 metadata field they may give, but if you are a free user, they may give only restricted 6 to 7 metadata field. That metadata more than sufficient to pull remaining data from other sources. For example, in the Scopus, they used to provide basic information about the article title, DOI, who are all the first author. They used to give this information. But remaining information, we can, based on this DOI, we can fetch from other sources such as Crossref and Microsoft Academic Search. From there, we can get. That is another option. Suppose you don't have, your faculty member, they don't have any article in the, what is it called, Scopus or Web of Science, or your article they have published, all the faculty members published in the regional journal or local journal. What you can do, definitely those faculty member, you can request them to create an ArchIT ID. There they can import all the article. From the ArchIT automatically system fetch a publication. That is another alternative. I hope I have answered her question.
Yes, yes. It's my question actually. So yes, you have. Dr. Kanan, another question from Madhuri. How do you make sure about the quality of data pulled out? Names of authors can be same. How do you make sure that the right researcher is being tagged from so many different web systems?
Okay. Article level metadata only based on some IDs. We are not at all fetching any of the article based on their name or some other what is it called, point of view. We are fetching based on only their ID. Suppose the ID is wrong, definitely their article data also it may be sometime wrong, but it is nodal officer responsibility to collect a proper ID from the respective faculty member. Suppose some of the faculty member, they may have 2-3 IDs from some of the database such as Scopus or Web of Science. There they have to, even if they have 2-3 IDs, we will take care that all the 2-3 ID, the automatically system will fetch a data. We won't fetch any of the article based on simply by their name. Then one more thing, the Google Scholar, simply we are showing that citation metrics. We are not at all fetching the article, even though we have provision to fetch an article. Since Google, they are doing a great job, but whereas there is a duplication based on the name, they used to index the article in the respective profile. We don't want to come into those kind of duplication. That's the reason we are not at all fetching article from Google Scholar. We used to get only that citation metrics. Based on the Google Scholar ID, we used to fetch a citation metrics. But recently, Google has added one more feature called the faculty member. They can restrict the automatic update. In the future, everybody curated or everybody kept their profile in a proper way, even we can fetch a publication from Google Scholar.
Okay, we have lots of questions coming in actually. The next one is from Devendra. Do you make it institute specific or can I use it for national level demographics as well?
At present, you can have a look at it in our Irins Instance. We have till now we have created near about 253 institutes, which include IITs, NITs, central universities, state universities, all those universities. But in the end user, they can have a look at it only that institute, individual institute profile. Apart from that, we have a common search interface. It will use to search a profile from all these 253 institutes. For example, somebody want to know who are all expertise in nanotechnology. In the interface, somebody they can come and search. It will show out of 47,000 faculty profiles who are all nanotechnology. Even it will arrange the faculty member based on their number of publication, citation, as well as search index. Based on that, they can take the data. But one more dashboard we have developed for example, national level assessment. It is only available for funding agency as well as policymaker, not for other common users.
Okay. So whatever institutes are affiliated with, so for example, if I want to look for a collaborator today, then I should be able to find one among the 222 institutions that you have currently. So it is not just that I would be able to only look at my institution's data alone, but I should be able to find a collaborator from another organization with similar expertise.
Actually, there is a two option. For example, IIT Madras, there is a separate what is it called, institute profile is there. Somebody want to know about only IIT Madras, they can directly go to iitm.irns.org. There it will show all the research related activities of IIT, their department, their individual faculty member. That is a one. Another, it is a common interface. There they can search all out of 253, any institute they can search. There they will get some kind of filter. Got the point?
Okay.
For example, individual
Yes.
there is an interface for individual institute. They can all the nodal officers, they can manage their profile, or anybody from outside, they can have a look at it, how the institute is performing over a period of time, or their department as well as faculty. Suppose they want to, somebody want to search out of 253 institute who are all expertise in nanotechnology. There is a common, the Irins, there is a common search interface. There they can do search. It will bring all these results from particular expertise area. Even they have various filters. Suppose I want a particular faculty member, only professor I want, or only associate professor want, those kind of filter they can do.
Okay, so those are very useful for funding agencies. So you already have some funding agencies already using this system. Do you?
Only at present we are providing this data to MHRD because it is MHRD funded institute. Okay. We are also in the process to develop agri-related institute. Even we are going to approach some other ministry like DBT or other ministry also, if they want to develop some kind of what is it called, interface for respective group of institute, we can develop using this system. We can develop, even we can provide some kind of what is it called, the dashboard. There they can do entire for example, DBT, they have 30 institute, they can do some kind of analysis, who are all top in that, or who top faculty member, which department they are performing better. Even they can benchmark the institute based on their publication, citation, all those metrics. At present, we are doing it for only for Ministry of Education.
Okay. Okay. So we're running out of time. So maybe one last question. Is there any way to check number of publications from any EMG grants or project? That's a question from Roshan Kumar.
This information at present, even if you take Scopus or above science, hardly 10 to 15% of article they have a funding related data. Actually, we are also in the process to develop in India country level to map this funding related data with their article. But at present, is not there in the what is it called IRNS. We are not having any mapping because we don't have any what is called open data. If somewhere the open data is available, even we can integrate it. For example, okay, that cross-up they have providing that fund reference ID. They are mapping their article with their fund reference ID. In the suppose in India we have those kind of database. There is a common ID. Then we can integrate with that ID, and that fund reference funding related data also we can accumulate.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kanan. That was very, very interesting, and we have many more questions, but in the interest of time, I think we will have to end the session here. But if your question is not answered, please feel free to get in touch with Dr. Kanan. His email address is available in the brochure. Do write to him. Thank you, Dr. Kanan.
Thank you, madam. Once again, thank you for IRMI for providing this opportunity to share our IRMS project with all the participants. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay, so moving on, next we have the Vineyard Talks. These are in lieu of the poster session actually. So these are very short 3 to 5 minute presentations. And again, because in the interest of time, these have been pre-recorded. So before playing the video, let me just introduce the presenters. We have Dr. Malini Pillai, who's a grants advisor at NCBS. She'll be talking about the pre-award support at her institution. We have Dr. Shantala Haridas, Associate Director at India Bioscience, and she's going to talk about the International Grants Awareness Program that the India Bioscience runs. Then we have Miss MC Aruna. She's a team administrator from NCBS again, and she will be telling us about the post-award tools and processes that are available at her institution. And the final presenter is Dr. Roshan Kumar, who's a program manager at the National Center for Biological Sciences, and he's going to be talking about challenges of managing large institutional grants. Can we have the recording, please?
Hi all, I'm Dr. Malini. I work as a grants advisor at the Research Development Office, Bangalore Life Sciences Cluster, which comprises of 3 institutions, NCBS, INSTEM, and CCAM. Today I'll be talking about the pre-award support, lessons from the Indian perspective. The pre-award phase basically represents the beginning of the grant life cycle, and it spans a range of activities including identifying funding, submissions, as well as activation of the awarded grants. Now at Bliss, the RDO offers a comprehensive pre-award support starting from the grants advice to grant submissions, facilitating collaborations as well as outreach to both funding agencies, and we also organize funding workshops as well as grantsmanship workshops, both inside as well as beyond campus. Now, over the decade of functioning at Bliss, we have mined several opportunities for our researchers and faced and mitigated a lot of challenges and administrative bottlenecks, and have established a set of processes that facilitate the effective management of grants at the pre-award stage. So I would like to share a few of these challenges and would like to share the strategies that we adopted to mitigate these. So one of the major challenges that we faced as the RDO was getting established at Bliss was the lack of information on research funding. It was a lacuna in the Indian context at that point, and we built a comprehensive database of funding opportunities. This is now a very national-wide open resource and is used not just by researchers on campus, but also across researchers beyond campus across the nation. So this provides a comprehensive list of opportunities for both independent researchers as well as early career researchers, and we feel that this was an important contribution that the RDO had made. The next challenge we faced was to streamline the grant submission process. So with the faculty of close to 50 and with a postdoc population of close to 100 to 200 researchers on campus, it was very important to establish robust submission pipelines as well as archival system to smoothen the whole process of grant submission and the pre-award. So we have set up processes at different stages of the pre-award, starting off from the preparation work, the proposal development, the grant submission process per se, as well as all the activities that happen post submissions. So with these, it smoothens the whole process of submission, and it helps with working with all the stakeholders. Now, in addition to the grant submission pipeline, we came up with trackers, grant submission trackers that archives all the submissions that happens from the campus. So this helps in ensure, so basically when a grant gets submitted from the campus, it is assigned a particular ID, which we call as an RDO ID. And with this, this has all the basic information starting from the investigator details, budget details, collaborator details, the scheme or the funding agency that we have applied to, etc. So currently we use the Excel sheet for this purpose, but we are in the process of also automating these grant submission trackers. In addition to the grant submission trackers, RDO had also established an in-house grant management system, which kind of archives all the documents as well as the correspondence that has happened with these submissions. In addition to the pre-award part, the grant management system also helps in adding on, if the grant gets awarded, it adds in all the post-award documents as well. So with these concerted efforts, we have seen a very steady increase in the submissions that has happened on campus. And if you see the statistics here, close to twofold increase in submissions have been observed over the last 6 years. Moving on, I would like to, so these were a few challenges that I just cited. Moving on, I would like to highlight few success stories, which kind of highlights the importance of having a pre-award support on campus. So one such example is what I'm going to say. So basically, this was we have been in positions where we've been able to influence the policy changes on national funding agencies. An example was the interaction that we had with SIR. So in 2016, there was at that point, for any applications to be submitted to SIR, they had a very important eligibility criteria, which was that the applicant had to be an Indian national. And this actually precluded the PIs who were of foreign origin or foreign nationality but who were on regular employment at Indian institutions to apply for grant in aid from SERV. And at that point, we had close to 3 PIs who have of the foreign nationality, and they could not apply to SERV just because of this eligibility criteria. So we had made, in coordination with the senior management, we had made an appeal to SERV to consider this particular request, and we had provided the initial framework for the same. And later on in October 2016, SERV had considered this request, and they had approved the opening of SERV schemes such as the EMR, now called as the Core Research Grant, ECRA, HRHR, IRMI, and several of those schemes to scientists of the foreign origin or foreign nationality, with just the condition that they need to have an Indian co-PI. This was a big relief for PIs or foreign nationals on campus. And to date, we've been successful in actually getting awards for SERV. Close to 3 awards have been awarded for the foreign nationals. The next success story that I would like to share with you all is the role that the RDA played in boosting the postdoctoral program on campus. So we have set a very structured process in order to cater to the need of the early career researchers on campus. So starting off from the targeted advice, wherein we sit with the postdoc, have one-to-one discussions with them, understand their needs, and then try, based on their experience as well as the remit of the proposals, we advise them on the schemes and the agencies that they can approach to. And in addition to that, we also organize annual funding workshops and that update them about the recent schemes that have been announced. And in addition to these, the grants advice part, we have also established the pre-screening process, which we have established in coordination with our academic office. This helps to pre-screen high quality applications, that it ensures that the high quality applications are being submitted from the campus. This also provides, so basically a committee looks at these applications. It's an internal committee that looks at the applications, and it provides feedback to the postdoc. This also helps the postdocs in refining their scheme. So we've seen over the years that all of these efforts have resulted in not just an increase in the number of postdocs but on campus, but it also has enhanced the portfolio of postdoc grants over the years. So in addition to the regular schemes like the DBT, RA, or a SERV, NPF, and IECA, we've seen a large repertoire of funding coming from very different funding agencies, including schemes such as the Conservation Leadership Program, and then the BIRAC Big Sitare schemes, the DHR Young Scientist Scheme, etc. So with this, I would like to conclude that the pre-award support, so in this current changing scenario, wherein the research institutions are trying to set up research management structures, I would like to make a point here that pre-award support could be very crucial in not just enhancing the research foundation for research funding, but also in impacting the research programs. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shantala Haridas from India Bioscience. I'd like to begin by thanking the organizers of the IRMI Annual Conference 2021 for giving me a chance to tell you a little bit about our International Grants Awareness Program, which we initiated recently to educate, inspire, and equip Indian life science researchers to get more international funds. So let me get started. So before I go into the details of the International Grants Awareness Program, which we call IGAP for short, let me tell you why we started this initiative. And this was driven by two observations. The first is the low number of applications going out from India to various international funding opportunities. And the second observation was the low quality of applications going out from India for various international funding opportunities. And together, these led to a low success rate for Indians to get international funds. So keeping this gap in mind, we started the International Grants Awareness Program. And so we decided to take a kind of three-pronged approach to addressing the problem. And so the first was to equip or provide the tools and the knowledge as to how to craft a successful application to these international funding opportunities. The second was to, on a broader scale, to educate, to tell the Indian life science researchers about what were the various international funding opportunities that were open and available to them. And finally was to inspire, so to share success stories from Indians who had successfully received these international funds, to build a network of mentors, so to boost the confidence of the community to send more applications. And so by this three-pronged approach, the aim was to have more Indians seeking and receiving international funds. So now let me go to some of the specific details of what we are doing as part of IGAP. I'd like to begin by saying that IGAP, as I said, it's a new initiative. We launched it in late 2019. Though all the resource generation events that we have hosted, everything has happened this year in 2020. We are currently funded by the IRMI Research Management Grant from DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance. And so we're very appreciative of this support because it enables us to carry out this initiative at the scale that we envisioned when we started IGAP. So in the first phase, what we set out to do was to cover 4 international funding agencies. The ones that we selected were EMBO, the Mary Sklodowska-Curie Actions, HFSP, Ashbridges. So across these 3, you'll see that we have covered funding schemes that are open to PhDs, to postdocs, to early careers, to people who have recently started an independent research group, to mid-career scientists. So we kind of try to cover the entire gamut of career stages of life science researchers. And also, as in addition to these funding agency specific resources, to compile some more general resources for anyone who's considering applying for international funds. So on the right-hand side, you'll see the posters and banners for some of the events and podcasts, the webinars and podcasts that we have conducted already. And one thing that I'd like to add is that all these resources are available for freely available for download on the India Bioscience website. But to kind of make it even easier for someone who's thinking of applying for an international fund, what we did is we compiled them all. We have created a dedicated page for the IGAP resources. This page is going to be launched either in late December 2020 or early January 2021. So it should be out by the time you see this video. So moving on to some more details of how we are going to do what we set out to do. And I think here it's good to take a step back and ask why India Bioscience. And I think that draws upon the general role that India Bioscience plays, which is we play a facilitatory role to bring about changes, evolution, resources, networking among the life science researchers in India. And so that's exactly what we are doing as part of IGAP as well. We are continuing on that framework. So India Bioscience works with the funding agencies, with Indian scientists who have been on the review committees, with Indian scientists who have previously received various international funds, as well as Indians who are thinking about applying for these international prospective applicants. We work with these 4 groups to create resources that best address the needs of IGAP. And so what have we done so far? So of course, since IGAP, most of our work has happened in 2020 in the current circumstances of the pandemic. Almost all the events resources that we have created have been online. So we've had 5 webinars, 1 in-person workshop. We've had 2 podcasts, 3 articles. Over the course of all of these various activities, we have interacted and presented over 15 experts to the audience prospective applicants. We're currently also building a database of mentors, and these are international awardees who can kind of help and mentor prospective applicants. But on a bigger scale, what are we doing? So on a bigger scale, what we are doing is we are developing resource bundles. And so what is a resource bundle? So you can see that, say, for EMBO, we conduct a plethora of webinars, podcasts, articles. In order to make this easily accessible, we compile all the resources relevant to a funding scheme, say EMBO or HFSP, into one infographic. So you have a one-stop shop for that funding scheme or funding agency. And this is downloadable. So far we are in the process of creating 5 resource bundles which cover the 4 funding agencies I discussed previously. And also we've been the response to this has been very encouraging. We have had people joining us from across India for all of our sessions, especially given that right now most of our events are happening online. So for our webinars, we have had over 900 people joining in real time to participate in the webinar. Our articles have got about 1.7 thousand page views, 1.3 thousand YouTube views for our webinar. So post the webinar, we upload the recording on YouTube. So this is what I'm talking about. And more than 150 listens to our podcast. So you can see that there is a need. The community is kind of responding to the resources that are being generated, showing that there is a need for such an initiative. But as I said, it is a young initiative. We are still in the first phase. So we actively invite you to engage with us, participate with us, and to be a part of this IGAP journey. And so if you want to get in touch with us, here are the India Bioscience contact details, as well as some specific contact details for IGAP. We have a specific email address, so do email us if you would like to engage with us in any way. And here I'd also like to add that Smita Jain, who's Executive Director of India Bioscience, is also plays a key role in this project. So you can get in touch with her as well. And here are my personal details. So my email address is shantala@indiabioscience.org. I would very much like to hear from you, to have you be a part of IGAP. And there are below you can see the social media handles for both me as well as India Bioscience. And so with that, I'd like to say thank you, and I look forward to meeting you at the IRMI conference.
Hello everyone. I'm Aruna, Team Administrator at National Center for Biological Sciences, Bangalore. Today I'm talking about post-award support tools and processes developed in Research Development Office at Bangalore Life Science Cluster. The RDO has been facilitating funding for research at the Bangalore Life Science Cluster. Comprehensive post-award support enables effective execution of awarded grants. Listed in this slide are some of the different funding agencies we are dealing with related to campus grants. Each one of the funding agency has different requirements. RDO works with grant holder and with campus colleagues for facilitating post-award management of grants as per the funding agency's requirements. Over the years, we have established processes and tools to aid effective and efficient management of awarded grants. This support is extended to campus awardees throughout the life cycle of the grant, starting from grant activation to reporting to extension to transfer and to closure, which we named it as post-award management path. Currently, the office manages close to 150 grants per year for the campus. RDO facilitates submission of the required documents during each stage of the grant, which may be prompted either by RDO as part of routine monitoring of grants based on agencies' policies or in response to the requirement from agencies. The documents generated during the post-award management path are archived carefully in the centrally located grants management system, which we call it GMS. Shown here is a screenshot of the GMS. Prior to establishment of the RDO, grants were managed by accounts team using paper files. Recognizing the need to develop an easily accessible data system and to create institutional memory of all grants, we initiated digitization of the grant-related documents and developed an online archival system to store the digital copies of grant management related documents. This is a customized software developed specific to the campus requirements. In the GMS, grant holder wise, grant wise, pre-award and post-award wise soft copy of the grant documents are stored for future reference. We track activation of new grants to identify delays in funds release, post-submission of activation documents, and follow up with the funding agency to facilitate funds release. A bank of templates for certifications are prepared in line with the requirement of the individual funding agency or kept in our records for future use. The dispatch tracker helps us to track the hard copy of the grant-related documents sent to the funding agency. We also initiated maintenance of a reporting tracker for efficient and timely management of grants. This tool enables us to send timely reminders to the awardees and accounts for reporting, extension, or closure of the grants. The reporting calendar also helps in retrieving the data for the different types of data analytics needed for the MIS. Investing in good working relationship with accounts and other departments of the campus as well as staff at the funding agency has also helped streamline some of these processes. In this slide, we have taken three case studies where RDO's presence has made a difference in effectively managing the grants. The first case study, which is a postdoc grant, RDO assisted the grant holder in getting the grant transferred to the campus at the activation stage by working with the funding agency. This is during the initial stage after the launch of the SERB NPDF, and SERB policy do not allow to transfer the grant. Constant follow-up with the funding agency was needed to get the grant transferred. The second one is a PI-driven project grant. The manpower funds were not released by the funding agency, stating that the candidate appointed is not a JRF as sanctioned. This states prior to the release of the government order, which included the project associate position. RDO worked with the PI in giving the suitable justifications to the funding agency, along with evidences like the advertisement and interview minutes, stating that suitable JRF was available. No suitable JRF was available. After several iterations, funding agency agreed to release the funds for the manpower appointed. The third one is regarding a collaborative grant. As the foreign co-PI in the grant is not aware of about the Indian procedure for getting the suitable government approvals and the type of visa needed to visit the campus, RDO, with the help of the campus admin colleagues, identified and applied for the necessary approvals with the government departments at the activation stage. Once the approvals came, after a constant follow-up, it was sent to the foreign PI to enable him to apply for the required visa. In conclusion, I would like to summarize the key takeaway points from my presentation. Different funding agencies has different requirements. Over the years, we have developed a process and tools for effective and efficient administration of grants. An online archival system developed to store the digital copies of grant-related documents was developed. Investing a good working relationship with colleagues as well as the staff at the funding agency to streamline the post-award management of grants. Thank you. Please feel free to call us. Please feel free to contact us at RDO Post Award. Thank you.
Good morning, all. I'm Dr. Roshan Kumar, working as Program Manager Grants at Grants and Research Collaboration, a vertical of Research Development Office at Bangalore Life Science Cluster. So the topic of my presentation here is challenges of managing large institutional programs. Before I take you to the management part, in this current slide, I want to show the career path, how I have landed into a career in research management. So I did my PhD in life science from Dr. Helsingborg University. So from a career in academics to with research background, I chose a role in program monitoring at the National Bureau of Agriculture in Important Microorganisms. So here I was managing a mega project of Indian Council of Agriculture Research by managing 55 projects under 6 thematic area. So after gaining an experience of 4 years, I chose to switch a career again in managing large programs at Bangalore Life Science Cluster. So the earlier experience I gained at a funding agency has helped me to manage these large program grants. In total, I have gained an experience of 6.5 years in research management. Taking you to my portfolio as program manager grants. So I manage the large institutional and multi-institutional grant of Bangalore Life Science Cluster. To give you a flavor, here is the list of grants which I manage at NCVS and Instant. I also work in close relationship with administration and management for the smooth administration of grants. I also work closely with administration account for tracking fund receipt as well as expenditure on large grants. I do coordinate for scientific reporting with PI and financial reporting with accounts and collate them and send it to the concerned program officer. I do assist for program renewal support, extension, as well as reapplication. Resolution of queries and conflict has always a very important part. As a funding agency also, we were looking into it, and here also, whenever there is a query raised by funding agency or by audit team, I do provide justification and try to resolve those. Outreach to funding agency has always been very important because it helps you to bridge network with the program officer, as well as we do get most of the queries of our the grant get resolved with the funding agency. Coming to perspective of funder as well as the institution. So the funder perspective is that one should comply with all the terms and conditions mentioned in the sanction order, as well as for the purchase of equipment, which should be in line with what has been sanctioned, and that should be within the time frame. Recruitment of manpower should also be aligned to the DST office orders. Reporting, scientific report, when I talk about scientific reporting, then it should be in line with the sanction objective. There should be no deviation from it. And when if you talk about the utilization of fund, then also it should be aligned to the latest GFR norms. When I talk about institutional perspective, so being a program measure, the primary role is to comply with all the two major points of funding agency. And if I fulfill those requirements, then definitely it helps us to avert most of the unnecessary queries, and also getting the fund stuck. And if at all a query has been raised, then I try to effectively resolve those queries of conflict. If all these points are taken care of, then it ensures that funds are available throughout the sanction period, and beyond the sanction period also one can apply for extension or reappropriation of fund. The major challenge what I see in managing program is the gaining trust of all the stakeholders. The role of all the stakeholders are very important when you talk about managing large grants. So each stakeholder have its own role. So gaining trust is not a simple thing. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a time-taking process. It starts with the interaction with the individual members, and then it takes when you prove yourself to be helpful in managing their grants or providing resolution to their queries, then slowly you gain trust. The second issue what we face is the large grant at the two institutions, NCBS and Instem. So both these institutions are independent and are governed by different government ministries. So then the set of people working in management and administration, so one needs to interact and get things done for grants. The third and the most important point what we see is the tracking of manpower and equipment on grant. So both these points are very important because funding agencies are always eyeing on these issues. So one has to take care of it. And we are lacking a unified system which works across the system. Although we are working towards it, and we are working with IT team to develop an intra-based system. So here is a snapshot of the system. Please feel free to contact us if there's any query related to managing grants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to all the presenters. So one of the limitations of an online conference is we won't be able to interact with the speakers of the poster session, but you have their email addresses, so please feel free to get in touch with them to carry on these discussions, questions, comments, etc. So we're slightly behind time, so we will take a short 5-minute break and reconvene sharply at 3:40 for the panel discussion. Thank you. Okay, we'll just take a quick 5-minute break, just stretch our legs, maybe get a quick coffee, give our eyes some rest before we come back and start staring at the screen again. But please be back by 3:40 promptly. We have a very interesting panel for the discussion this afternoon. So look forward to seeing you all again in about 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So the next part of the session this afternoon is the panel discussion. So we have heard yesterday during the keynote talks of the inaugural session, the importance of institutions nurturing research management facilities. So that is what is going to be the focus of the panel discussion today, how institutions can build and sustain research management facilities and the need for it in our country. We have a very eminent panel participating in this discussion today. I request all the panelists to come on stage, please. Turn on your cameras. Thank you. By way of introductions, we have Dr. Satyajit, Professor Satyajit Mayer from NCBS. We have Professor Shashidhara from Ashoka University. Both of them need no introduction at all. They're both highly accomplished and internationally acclaimed biologists. Not only that, but they have also done wonders at their institutions in terms of leadership. They both played an instrumental role in building and expanding research management facilities at NCBS and IISER Pune respectively, and now at Ashoka. And you know, the advocates of research management facilities, and we are very happy and privileged to invite them to this panel today. Welcome, Jitu and Shashi. The next panelist is Ms. Vasundhara Lad. She is the Joint Registrar Finance at IISER Pune. Some of you probably already know her because she runs this, this financial management workshop for scientists and research managers. So some of you may have already interacted with her. She is a chartered accountant by training and has vast experience of working in research institutions over the years. So it'll be very interesting to listen to her insights. Welcome, Vasundhara. Next, we have Dr. Katrina Lawson. She is the Grants and Communications Manager at Oxford University Clinical Research Unit, or OCRU as it is called. And she has immense experience working in research management offices across different countries. And at OCRU, she currently supports communication and policy engagement across its various campuses in Vietnam, Nepal, and Indonesia. And she's also an active member of various research management networks, and she's going to bring in the international perspective to this discussion today. Very warm welcome, Katrina. Last but not least, we have Dr. Madan Kumar Anantakrishnan. He is the grants manager at DBT Wellcome Trust India Alliance. He spearheads their various funding schemes and also leads the grants team. Welcome, Madan. Okay, so without any further delay, let's get into the discussion. Maybe I can start with you, Jitu. So firstly, I would like to congratulate NCBS. You have recently celebrated the 10th anniversary of your research development office. And you know, most of the presentations today have also been from NCBS. That shows us you know, how well you have done in building and expanding these structures at NCBS. So congratulations on that. So NCBS has been very successful in attracting extramural funding, both nationally and also internationally. So what portion of this success would you attribute to the Research Development Office? And over the years, how has it helped the institution in expanding its research portfolio?
Actually, you know, very straightforward question to answer, Panari. I think the ability to manage a diverse portfolio of grants, both Indian and international, is challenging at the best of times for a given researcher. And for an institution, it's doubly challenging because there are so many commitments you make to different funding agencies. You know, unbeknownst to yourself, you tie yourselves up in knots. So I think without having a research management structure, I think we would have not been up to taking on, perhaps at least 50% of the grants that we would have today. And I think, so that's, without doing anything. But if you go one step further, I think the Research Management Office has also advocated taking on programs that have been somewhat, somewhat transformative from the perspective of the campus and creating new opportunities for the campus. So it's, in some sense, it's gone both ways, and I think that's to me a sign that we have a system that's working. And I should say that thank you very much for your congratulations on the 10 years of the RDO. But I also did notice that very few other agencies and institutions, maybe the set that are on this panel here, are very serious about having a research management office. And I hope that with the establishment of IRMI, this will change, and that one will be able to advocate for some kind of research management structures in institutions across the country. And I'm sure we're going to discuss challenges about that.
We've lost you there, Jitu.
We lost him, I guess, right?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so while he reconnects, maybe I can ask the next question to you, Shashi. So the story of ISER Pune has been slightly different in the sense that, ISER Pune from the initial days has, you developed a research grants office from the early days of the institution, and both the institution and the grants office have kind of grown hand in hand. And today, ISER Pune has a large body of grants, both education and research grants. So what role has the grants office played in establishing ISER Pune as a leader in both education and research?
Okay, so thanks for putting me in this panel. It's very interesting discussion. What I want to sort of put it in a slightly different context. When we talk about grants in India, typically it's about serving individual PIs, right, principal investigators, and how their money comes, how money is handled. Some of the examples, even NCBS, some people were giving, was talking about how to handle flexibility in the money, how to liaise with the funding agencies and so forth, and some awareness program, right? I think we lost Jitu, but Jitu would have mentioned the same thing, because we and Jitu are on the same page on these views. Grant management office or research development office, RDO, in any institute, it's not just about handling the money. It's actually providing the necessary confidence for people to venture into untread paths, right? For example, very often, however difficult it is to do research in India, people continue to do their own area of research in their area. It could be ecology, evolution, or forest ecosystem, to molecular biology or biophysics, right? Or even chemistry, physics, doesn't matter. But they generally tend to be very conventional. That they don't want to sort of think beyond their comfort zone, is simply because the difficulties of handling the research projects within their own comfort zone is so difficult. Going beyond the comfort zone becomes even more difficult. They almost consider it as impossible, right? For example, I'm a development biologist, use Drosophila as a model system, and I would do certain kinds of work, right? Genetics, molecular biology, cell biology, and using advanced microscopy, let's say. Now, to do my research is easier for me, at least at the academic level, because I'm supposed to be experienced in that area for decades. And so new PhD students keep joining. I somehow continue to do this, even if funding fluctuates here and there. Let's say if I want to go beyond my comfort zone, I want to involve another model system. Let's say I want to move towards the mouse system. I want to move towards the human clinical samples, right? And every time I try to do something new, if there is no good support system in the institute, I tend to always be in my cozy corner, not sort of venture out. What a good research management system in an institute does is to motivate the faculty to actually be more adventurous, more innovative, right? And otherwise you will be doing the same, beating this, beaten track of, doing the secondary kind of a research. Example of how CBS has been managed, able to do so well. It's not simply because you have a better management of having funds managed well. It's also telling people, or giving the confidence to go beyond their comfort zone. Same thing can happen, I suppose, right from day one, with having good people in managing funds, both in admin, finance, and the separate research management office. People like Vandana and Vasundhara, who is on this panel, and Registrar Rajshekhar. They're all so tuned to, support the faculty. They started going beyond their comfort zone, whether it's outreach grant, whether it is trying to do something different like translational work, right? And that's the, what support system should give. It's not simply handling the money, to ease the work of the PIs.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Jitu, do you want to add anything to that? We lost you there, so. Are you able to hear us? Oh, I think he's still. We're not able to. We're still not able to hear you.
Yeah, but.
Okay, we still can't hear you very well. I think we will perhaps move on. So Vasundhara, if I can bring you in next, that's a very high price for your office from Shashi, and deservingly so. So if I can, so you have had the experience of working across different institutions, right? You've worked at IIM Indore, IIT Indore, and now at ISR Pune. So have you seen any major differences in how the projects are managed or how the research is managed in these different institutions? What are the similarities? What are the differences?
Yeah, so basically, there is no differences. If we see the functions and the roles, it is the same across the institutes, because the nature of the research may be different, but yeah, the roles and the functions remain the same. And you only name it differently. Like at IITs, we used to name it as the Research and Development Office. Over here, we name it as the Grant Office. So, and like at IITs, to start with, like when you start a new institute, you are basically the non-technical people, like the non-scientists are handling, the non-technocrats are handling this office. And at ISR Pune, like what Shashi said, that, we are so glad that, right from day one, we had this research management office. So that really adds to, managing it very well, managing the grants very well. And that is why we are today at what we are.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question very well, actually. So with your experience of, working with scientifically trained people, both in the grants office and the international office at ISR Pune, based on your experience, what message would you like to give to the administrators at other institutions about, recruiting people with that sort of experience? How does that add value? What would your advice be?
No, definitely. See, different people and administrator like us would think in a different perspective. And if there is a technical person like a scientist or a technocrat, they would think in a different angle. And when we make as a team, we definitely add value to, whatever we think and how we practice it. So the message that is very clear is that we should have a combinations of various diverse people coming together, and then they make a perfect team.
Okay, and that's, I think, agrees with what Shashi you said also, right? I mean, to be able to work with researchers and to be able to advise them and build that sort of confidence in researchers, I think that kind of training definitely does help. So
just to add a point, It's like academic collaboration. Let's say interdisciplinary research. A physicist and a biologist, when they come together, physicists have a different language, biologists have a different language, but they need to understand each other's language. What improves is the quality of the science, and you know, and also do take the science to a different level, both in terms of what you do when you collaborate with completely from a different discipline. Similarly, even in grants management or in research development office, if a finance person and admin person would train to be a good finance manager and train to be a good admin manager, also collaborate with a technically competent science manager who has science background, together they actually can do wonders. Of course, they should work as a team, and thankfully, in Isapure they are working very, very well as a team. And of course, in Ashoka too, we have a fantastic, already a research office with a very similar, philosophy of, technically and scientifically trained human resources work very closely with admin and finance to facilitate research on campus.
Okay. So I'm going to come back to that a little later, but before that, if I can ask Madan. So as a grants manager and as a funder, what sort of differences do you see in applications coming out from institutions that have this sort of research management support versus those that do not? And even at the time of the award and post-award, what sort of differences do you see in these two sets of institutions?
Thank you, Ponari. It's a privilege to be on this panel today. So some of our schemes are quite new, but I'll just share a few observations that we have over schemes that have been running for quite some time now. So at the pre-award stage, what we have seen is that the value addition that research managers or an RDO can do to applications is quite apparent. Applications from organizations that have RDOs, they make well-informed choice of schemes, and they pay quite close attention to detail, attention to the eligibility criteria and administrative requirements. We'd also like to say that it appears that there's some very strong vetting happening at the grantsmanship side, and applicants from these institutions seem to have made good use of all provisions that the funding schemes offer. The costing policies are abided by. The budget is quite well done, which I think is a major thing to have on applications. The endorsements are also done well and in a timely manner. And in general, there's very prompt response to queries that we have during the application process. Now, talking about post-award, I think at the time of activation, RDOs come and play a very significant role. This has been particularly significant for many of our awardees who return from abroad to their first position in India. They're not left running from pillar to post, not knowing what administrative requirements have to be filled for activating their award. The RDO fills this gap quite nicely. And they also help the awardee stay well informed of the provisions of our schemes, the award conditions and policies. So there's very minimal back and forth during the lifetime of the grant. And also in many administrative conversations, we see that the research managers, in fact, lead the conversation, lead the dialogue, and the awardee merely remains in CC or in the loop. And there's a lot of administrative burden that the research manager takes off the shoulders of the researcher. Even in cases where there are new announcements, new launches, or revisions to policies that happen, the grasp that fellows have is quite quick and strong in places where there are established RDOs or dedicated research management personnel helping the fellow and backing them up. And yeah, I think attention to detail and very clear and streamlined channels of communication are the two major values that get added.
Okay, thank you, Madan. So Katrina, so far we have heard of how grants offices and research management offices add value to institutions. But we are living in a very different world today. It's unprecedented. The world as we knew, the life as we knew has been disrupted completely. So with your experience at OCRU, across the various sites in 3 different countries, how did the research management facility at your institution come to the aid of scientists and administrators during this, uncertainty imposed by COVID-19?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And, this last year has been difficult for everyone. I think in the pre-award side, we had so many applications in 2020 because there was a huge amount of international funding released for COVID-19. So I think we handled in our team 93 applications this year, and I think around about half of those were COVID-19 applications across our 3 countries. And, the other difficult thing about all of those applications is that they were all very urgent. So normally you get 6 weeks to apply for a call, and this time you would get a fortnight if you were lucky. And so getting approvals and everything is really, really difficult, and getting everything compliant on time and doing costing on time was really difficult. So that was a very important role that our team and the grants team played in pre-award this year. But the other thing is that COVID also brought a huge number of delays to so many projects. So we're a clinical research unit, and that means that a lot, not all, but a huge number of our studies are clinical studies and clinical trials. And of course, while you have COVID in the hospitals, you can't run a clinical trial in another disease particularly. So quite a lot of our trials were closed or stopped and delayed. And even if they weren't clinical trials, a lot of people were doing things like traveling internationally because, they maybe needed to go back to their home country, or they had just happened to get stuck somewhere and couldn't get back into the country again, causing delays on many of their projects. So we realized pretty early on, by about March, that we needed to figure out exactly what projects we had that were going to be affected by that. So that was a big role for the grants management team, and sort of looking at all of the projects that were running that were affected by delays, and then figuring out what the cost of those delays was, figuring out which projects needed extensions in time, which projects needed additional funding, and figuring out what the impact of that was going to be, and then helping to communicate with the funders. So funders needed to know if there was a project that was delayed. Some funders offered additional money, so there was opportunities to request additional funding. But that communication process was an additional complication on top of all of the other tasks that our scientific community were having to do during that time. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing, the biggest gain from having the grants office there is that we were able to do that kind of in bulk. So for example, we have Wellcome Trust and MRC are 2 of our major funders, fund quite a lot of our clinical trials and our clinical related projects. So we were able to go back to, a single person at the Wellcome Trust and say, this is, all of our projects that are affected. These are all of the different amounts of money that we need. These are the different amounts of time that we need. These are the additional staffing or whatever it might have been, but present it through a personal relationship between, my team and the grants team and the grants and the funder office, and then kind of just be that conduit of information to make that communication much faster and much clearer.
And I'm pretty sure the funding agency appreciated that as well, instead of having to deal with, individuals on individual grants. That must have been helpful both ways. Okay. So Shashi, coming back to Ashoka now. So what were the lessons from IISER Pune that you have taken to Ashoka? And are you doing things differently there, or is it pretty much the same? Yeah, so what experiences have you taken from IISER Pune to Ashoka? You're muted.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, so some of the success stories is definitely emulating and repeating here. The way we set up the research office, the way we connecting to admin and finance people, along with the people who are trained in science and also have some managerial skills and the formal training in in science administration management, in grants management. But the other point that we started off very early in Ashoka, which we didn't do is the infrastructural management. Right from day one, how to not only see, typically grants manager is handle money, right, and liaise with the funding agencies and ease of applying pre-proposal stage and the and receiving the funds and the managing the projects, facilitating variety of ways a fund is managed. But here we started off at an early stage itself, where all the funds that coming from within the internal sources or external sources goes through the research office, management office. They will also help in actually setting up the infrastructure, maintaining the infrastructure. So we have for physics, chemistry, biology, environmental science and all, wherever we are setting up, labs, including psychology, they all sort of are representatives of the research office who work in different departments. And there's also 2-3 people in the research office who oversee all the functionalities, so that the research facility is set up very effectively and also used in a very collaborative manner, irrespective of the source of funds. And that's the one thing we initiated here. So in a way, research and development office, when you use the word, it has to do all aspects of research, not just when you say grant management office or grants office, it only deals with the grants, right? And most of the time it deals with the paperwork and the money. Whereas research and development office has to handle a variety of different things, including setting up laboratories, maintaining, and for example, if I want to set up a field station for archaeology research, the research and development office actually liaises with the concerned faculty and getting all the approvals from the forest officials or Archaeological Survey of India and setting up a field station. These are the kind of initiatives we are taking up in Ashoka, which is something different than what we did in Pune.
Okay, that's interesting to know. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jitu has joined. He's having some problems with his network, so he's going to keep his camera off, I've been told. Jitu, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Panari. Can you hear me?
Okay, that's great. Great to have you back.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I managed to hear most of the discussion, but it was a little on and off. I don't know what's happened here.
Oh, okay. I hope it's.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Jitu.
Okay,
so I'm going to ask you the next question. So based on your experience at the Bangalore Life Science Cluster, what would you regard as enablers, for institutions to employ, to take in, to retain, and then to aid in the career development of research managers?
I think most important, for research managers is an appreciative environment. I mean, that I think needs to be underlined at every instance. And I must say, establishing the RDO on the campus, wasn't always seen as something that individuals felt, or individuals' PIs felt that they needed in the beginning. Institutionally, of course, as I had indicated earlier, I'm not sure whether you heard the words I spoke, but institutionally, it was, absolutely a game changer in terms of how funds and funding could be both leveraged and managed. But research managers themselves, have always found themselves in a somewhat, sort of a position where they were neither scientists nor administrators, not fully aligned with the administration. And I think that one has to change that perspective first and foremost, if you're going to encourage research managers to be to really see this as a viable career path. So I think that's sort of perceptual issues on the ground. Second, of course, there needs to be a full awareness of the importance of the research managers from the side of the funding agencies and the side of the institutions. A career path is just like in any other profession, a career path is absolutely essential and necessary, and one should be able to create these career paths. And I hope that through IRMI, one will be able to set up the necessary sort of outlines or the recruitment processes and the potential for creating a career track for research managers. This is really going to change the way this profession will be viewed, and I think going forward, the opportunities for funding, in some ways need to be seen in somewhat more of a sensorial manner, because the funding is not coming directly for open-ended research inquiry anymore. One is going to have to connect research inquiry to the demands that are being placed on the outside, from the outside. And research managers can play such an important role in negotiating this, terrain between what are the funding opportunities outside and the research potential or research possibilities inside. So, I mean, those would be, some of the thoughts I have on this question you raised. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, Jita, I mean, as a research manager, I could completely relate to what you said about, finding ourselves neither here nor there. I can totally relate to that. So Shashi, do you want to add anything to that? I mean, how could these research management offices be sustained in the long run?
Yeah, so I mean, it has to have an institutional support. Very often, in many places in American, let's say, system, the research office will have a part of the money that comes as the overheads from very different grants will go to the research office to sustain the activities of the research office. But in Indian context, it may not be feasible. It's simply because the kind of overheads we get from the funding agencies is much smaller, right? There is always a cap. For example, our research office, along with Vasundhara and other admin and finance people, work very hard to get a very large grant called Pune Biocluster, equivalent to Bangalore Biocluster. And irrespective of how big the grant is, amount of work is enormous because you have to deal with so many different PIs, two to three different institutes, large number of equipment purchase and all. But overhead is so small that it's simply because getting bigger grant doesn't mean that you get, So the feasibility of running or sustainability of running such a good research office comes only when the institute supports with full-time permanent employees. So ISPUNE thankfully employed 4 or 5 people on permanent basis, creating certain positions and at a senior level position, so that the head of grants office or head of international office or head of science communication office are all run by people like you, Punari, with PhD and postdoctoral experience, and then taking up, a career which is different in science management. Similarly, in Ashok also, we are trying to set up. You have to have a institutional support, otherwise you cannot make it sustainable in Indian context.
Okay.
Yeah, Punari, I can add one more comment to that.
Yes.
I think it's important that again, this could be something that funding agencies think through carefully. Support for, I mean, the objective of the research management office is, of course, primarily also to ensure grants keep coming. Now one way to ensure that the research management office is sustainable is to ensure that the that the overheads that Shashi just talked about, a fraction of those overheads, can be used in this direction. Many private funding agencies actually allow you to deploy that money in that direction. And I think it's important that one maybe even, has a statement somewhere in funding agencies, funding agencies sort of agreements that management of these funds, if require a management structure, these funds may be used for that purpose. I think it would really encourage the establishment of such offices across the country, because that will permit sort of panicky financial officers who view overheads as sort of almost revenue earned. So I think one should try and see how to make this work out. Yeah.
Okay.
Puneli, I have something to add in this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Please.
I completely agree with Shashi sir that overhead. I mean, institute should support in having a R&D office and full-time employees and positions created by the institute, because overheads are basically given, in my opinion, overheads are basically given to the institute for the infrastructure and the manpower support that they are providing to the projects. So this, actually this adds like what this actually adds towards the corpus, building the corpus fund of the institute. And the corpus really helps the institute in the long run. So initially, to start with, we should take the entire overheads to build the corpus for the institute, and then later on we can definitely think of a policy where we can put back these overheads into, say, supporting the R&D office or supporting the faculty research. That is what I wanted to add.
Okay. Sure. So Katrina, so you have, I mean, like, I mentioned before also that you've worked in so many different countries, and, you have vast experience. You've traveled to so many different continents, and obviously these countries probably have the research management structures at these institutions at these countries probably are very varied, starting from the nascent stages to more evolved structures. So what would your advice be for India, considering that we're just starting off in this direction, in building these structures at institutions and in trying to build these networks? What would your advice be for India? Are there things that we need to, to do immediately, and are there things that we could think of doing a little later? What should be our priority? How do you think we should go about this?
I think I'll frame my answer around sort of targeted at institutions that are considering, opening or establishing a grants office, and maybe also at the if you're a new grants manager and you're the only one in your institution, for example. I think there's kind of a few steps that I think are crucial at the beginning, and the first one is probably a consultation. So, I think by consultation, I mean, like in the grants office, you've got a number of key stakeholders. You've got your researchers is one set of stakeholders. You have your funders or another set of stakeholders. Those are both really important. And really the value that the research office places or the grants manager places is by being able to sit in the middle of those two stakeholders, the researchers and the funders, and being able to kind of translate between the two of them what their priorities are and help to communicate between the two of those stakeholders. But then even within the institution, there's also a number of sets of stakeholders that the research manager office kind of takes a leadership role in bringing together for grants. So that would include, the obvious ones are your finance departments and your scientific departments, so your faculties and your scientific departments. There's also labs. So labs often have quite a lot of need to have quite a lot of feedback on research grants and on budgets, costings and stuff like that. Your HR department, which was very interested in the income that is coming in for grants, around who's starting, who's ending, how much money there is aside for their salaries. If you're doing clinical research, then a CTU is really an important part of the wider stakeholder team for the grants office. and your contracts office as well. And if you're doing technology-based research, then maybe your commercialization office or your intellectual property office. The grants team sits in the middle of that. It's really a leadership role for bringing all of those different stakeholders together, from the researcher and the funder to all of the internal departments at the university, with a goal of improving the quality of your applications, improving the quality of your grants, increasing the amount of funding that you're actually able to attract. My opinion is that pretty quickly the grants office does pay for itself in terms of the increased funding that would come into the institution because of the increased quality of the grants and the grants management. So that's the first step, is having a real, ask people, what do you need? What do the funders need, and what do the researchers need, and what do all of those different stakeholders within the institution, what do they need, and what is lacking in terms of their grants management? And the second thing is figure out what have you already got and what have you already done. So what grants already exist in the institution? How were they put together? The research office is the place, the grants office is the place where you should be having something like a central repository of all previously submitted applications, something that other people can access potentially and learn from. It's also a place where you would be gathering metrics, so things like what grants you've submitted, who to, what your success rates might have been, how much money you've collected, how much money you requested versus how much money you were awarded. They're often slightly different. So that's sort of just providing that information and collecting that information on an institutional level is a really important role, and I think should be set up really early. I think documenting the existing procedures that you already have. So if you already have an approval process, making sure that that's written down. If you already have a way of communicating with funders, making sure that's documented. Not necessarily changing immediately. So immediately, really, it should just be about documenting and recording and reviewing and consulting and sort of using that to inform your consultation process. And then over time, those sorts of processes can be evolved, they can grow, and within that consultation process, you can find a way to a better process, sort of thinking about continuous improvement rather than sudden change. And then providing training for the scientists, training for other stakeholders within the institution who may need to know about some of the procedures. So for example, funders often have quite complicated compliance that we need to be able to keep up with, complicated reporting procedures, all that kind of stuff. Even in my institution here in Vietnam, for example, we've done lots of different kinds of grants training, from how to write a proposal, how to do the costing and pricing, how to avoid plagiarism, how to, if people who are going for interviews, how to be prepared. We do practice sessions for people who are going for interviews, how to practice and prepare and present your research. We've done presentation skills training, all kinds of different sorts of trainings in response to what our researchers tell them that they need. And that kind of builds up the trust for the grants office, it builds up the effectiveness of the grants office, and it builds up your success rate over time and generates income for the university.
Yeah, very pertinent points there. So Jitu and Shashi, this is for both of you. So, I mean, despite seeing how well ISER Pune and NCBS have done over the past few years with the research development offices, something that Jitu has already mentioned initially while he was answering the very first question, that not many institutions have actually followed your lead. So why do you think that is? What are the roadblocks, and what can we do as a community, as a research community, to try and change that in the country? What are the challenges, and how do we make the institution, more and more institution heads, to realize the value and importance of these offices?
Maybe I'll take that
Jitu,
first, just before my connection goes off again. I think the main challenge for research institutions, which are predominantly government, is to be able to earmark positions. I think if positions were available in government institutions, and they could be earmarked for such activities. They could that would happen, quite easily. One could create research management offices quite easily, and people would perhaps also even use them well. I think in private institutions there is a much more awareness, and private institutions are, see the scope of research management offices, to enhance the funding that needs to be brought in. Many a time, many of our government institutions also have been comfortable with the funds that have been given to them through internal resources of their various departments. Now, I think that's changing a lot. So I think we're going to see some of these paths that have been laid going to be, traveled upon more and more in the future. Sashi, do you want to?
Yeah, so, it's again, it's very difficult to, talk for other institutes, why they are not doing, right? You can only talk for your institute where you will be able to do something. And this is sort of a, bigger, the overall science management kind of a question across the country for a variety of reasons. For example, you can ask the question, why can't we have a rolling advertisement for faculty recruitment? Why do we have to have a, fixed, advertisement for a given 1 or 2 posts and then advertise? So these are all, some of the old baggage the system is carrying, and some of them are sort of not thought of maybe. And I think the young investigator meetings and such kind of meetings we had over the last 10-12 years has created a lot of awareness amongst the young faculty, the value of having such grants management system. And also Welcome Trust India Alliance, through its proactive discussions with every institute where they have awardees, they also created more awareness of having such a system. I think slowly more and more institutes are setting up, however maybe in the smaller scale, a research management office or grants management office. My feeling is it's going to grow, right? And particularly all the younger faculty who joined in the last 10-12 years the Indian system, who have been through either Welcome Trust India Alliance fellowship or young investigator meeting or a combination of both, are going to sort of mobilize internal resources within their own institute, because most of them have now become middle level or senior faculty with certain say in their institutes. So it's a change is happening. Maybe 10-12 years ago it may be the beginning, and some people did it, some people couldn't do it. I think it's going to grow and it will sort of spread across the country now. I'm only giving you an optimistic, futuristic one. I can't say why some other institutes are doing anything at this stage.
Okay. We are kind of running out of time actually. So maybe Katrina, I can bring you in there and ask you. So we often see PhDs and people with PhDs and postdocs and scientists, who are thinking of careers like research management. And many a times they kind of come and ask us, how do we go about this and how do we? So what would your advice be for someone like that? How do they prepare themselves for a career, and how do they convince an institution that that this is required, and maybe go talk to them and get them to create a position for them? What would you say? How do they go about it?
Okay, so I mean, obviously I come from a slightly different background from that, because I'm not a postdoc and I'm not a PhD holder. So sure. I can't necessarily talk about changing the trajectory of your career in that way. However, what I can say is that what I think is very, very valuable for an institution, particularly in the early stages of setting up a research management position, and I think quite necessary for your very first research manager post in an institution, is that you need to have someone who really has some broad knowledge of the global funding environment. And I think it's possible that a PhD or a postdoc may have that through their experience and their research. They may actually have quite a bit of understanding of the global funding environment or the funding environment for the area that they're working. But I think the bigger point is that what the grants management office, the research management office can provide is kind of like sits between the cultural divide between the researchers and the funders, you know, and I mean, like an institutional culture as much as even if it's an international funder, sometimes there can even be like a national culture divide between what the funder expects and what the institutions expect, or an institutional divide as well. So someone who can sort of understand what the funders need, and that could be your postdocs and your early career researchers, but also understands what the scientists and what the institutions need, and is able to bridge that divide and communicate between these two really important stakeholders. I think if you can show that you can facilitate in both directions for the benefit of the funders as well as for the benefit of the researchers, that's really where the value lies very early on. And I think that that's why if you're really thinking about becoming a research manager, or as an institution beginning to thinking about employing a research manager, if you're thinking about becoming a research manager, make sure that you understand your scientific environment and the area you're working in. So make sure you really understand your scientists, because those are your clients. But also make sure you understand your funding environment, understand what the pressures are on the funders, because often it's things like they have to be able to comply with international regulations, they need to be able to comply with financial regulations. So make sure you understand both of those sides and can communicate both of those sides is probably the strongest skill you need, particularly in the beginning when you're doing a leadership role and trying to establish that and trying to bring together all of those different stakeholders in the institution like I talked about before.
Okay, thank you, Katrina. So like I said, unfortunately, we've run out of time. So we're going to wrap it up now. So thank you so much to all the panelists for all this engaging discussion. And thank you for taking time out and joining us today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Puneet.
Thank you.
So
Thank you all. Thank you to IRMI and thank you, Punari. You did very well. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're going to go to the next session is going to start at 4:35, but you will have to go to the Microsoft links that's provided in the brochure to be able to log into this discussion session. So see you all there. Thank you.